We didn't have a marketing team before I joined. And so even though we'd gotten to about 70 million in ARR, we did that all through founder relationships, outbound sales, referrals, word of mouth. And so for me, it was a really unique opportunity to come in, build a team from scratch. So get to hire everybody, which I love. Usually you enter a company like this and you're inheriting an entire team. And a lot of them sometimes don't meet your expectations. And so you don't have that strong relationship. So getting to hire a team of people that I look up to, that I've always wanted to work with, has been nice. And just really starting the function kind of from scratch. No content program, no advertising, nothing. No, like really nothing going on other than events, I would say. Events was basically marketing for us. So here we are, 7 months later. Built a still small but mighty team, and I'm just starting to really get that marketing motion going for us, so that becomes hopefully a competitive advantage. Out of all the marketing disciplines, I would say I have the most experience in demand gen and growth. I started my career in ops and analytics, and so I've always had this data lens on things. And then I also know at the same time that the reason marketing exists is to help sell more product. And so demand gen and growth is one of the most important functions. So that was my first hire. I wanted to find, I was calling it a demand gen scientist in my mind. I really wanted somebody that was AI native already, didn't have to learn AI and how to use AI in their role, knew all the tools, was really operations focused. And I found that, well, I didn't even have to find them. I knew them. So that was my first role that I hired for, is head of growth. Then from there, I also knew that content was going to be one of the most important functions for us, content and product marketing. And content, because I've used content as a growth lever in the past, not just for growth, but also for brand. And I just know how well it can work. Content is one of the first things somebody will buy from you. They're buying it with your time. And I think I felt this way, but actually my head of content solidified just in this way. It was like, buy from you. It was that buy from you that I didn't have that as part of my lexicon, but he's like, they buy it from you with their time. And that's the most important asset. So I like to use content for a couple of things: to show our expertise and intelligence, to show our personality, and to drive and build trust. And the thinking is, and adding value. So not talking about our products almost at all, but adding value. And so it earns a right to show them our product. So content was important. So I hired a head of content, another person that I've known for a long time. I've tried to work with in the past and didn't get to. So now 2 people that I've wanted to work with for a long time. Product marketing, we had a head of product marketing in place, but unfortunately that person was well over their head. And so I had to make the difficult decision to replace that person, and found a head of product marketing that is just outstanding. Didn't know her though. She has experience with some of our competitors. So just came, hit the ground running. And then a head of events, because events have been working for us. And I had somebody running events that just didn't have event experience. So I hired a head of events. Really early on, you have to work with freelancers because you don't have enough budget or resource to hire a full-time person. So there's just sometimes when you're starting out, or depending on the size of the company and what you're trying to do, where it's just, that's the only way you can do it. But even in that, I prefer to try and find freelancers. There's a lot more freelancers today than there ever have been. And so I think oftentimes you can find the right, especially if you just like know, hey, this is a role I need to fill, but I'm not quite there yet. Let me find a fractional, or let me find an individual person. Where I look for agencies, it's usually in creative and sometimes content. Content, though, is another one where it's like, okay, you could find freelancers, but I've had a harder time finding content freelancers than others, because I just think it's maybe easier for anybody to say they're a content freelancer. And so I just know in my experience trying to find one, I just go to the people that I know, that I've worked with in the past, because it's too hard. I've tried. And every single day, I probably get 5 LinkedIn messages from content freelancers. And I know why that is. Part of it is because a lot of them have been laid off, and this is the route to a livelihood because they can't find another full-time job. That's not the best ones to find. And then there's the ones that are like dedicated, like I'm all in on this because I've made a successful career in content and now I'm doing it on my own. So that's why I prefer agencies there because then they're doing the work of vetting it. And that's a hard one to vet. And then especially for high value content. Now we're using AI to write a lot of the content with humans in the loop, but there's still something to the best content is going to be through primary research and your own data and that kind of thing. And sure, you could give that to AI, but I just find when you want to like interview people and include some of that stuff and just have more of a human lens on it, I find that working with an agency can help. And then creative, I just think, to build an in-house creative team to do the kind of creative that I want to do would be really expensive. And so I just think that creative is an easy one to just continually outsource to agencies. You could build an in-house production creative team. The hardest part though, I think, is that creative director and just like finding somebody that's just gonna help build that brand. I'm horrible at creative. So I'll draw stick figures and I'm trying to get my concept across, can take my horrible chicken scratch and like bad attempt at trying to draw something and turn it into something great, or just hear what I have to say and turn it into something. That's hard to find. And I find that it's easier to again, look at agencies, look at their prior work, talk to them, figure out, all right, we've got a good synergy here. I think you can represent my brand. So yeah, those two. Most other things in-house, especially some of the ones I think are important to keep in-house are operations and analytics, first of all, because there's so much nuance and so much like how I set this up and it's not documented and all these hidden skeletons in operations and how things are cobbled together that I found sometimes when you lose an ops person that's been there for a long time, it is a disaster. It can really wreak havoc. Things break. Nobody knows how to fix it anymore. And with analytics too, just constantly looking at your own data and having the human brain and pattern recognition come into play by just looking at that data all the time, so often, so frequently. Those are just ones I think you really can't replace. And then leading any function. You don't necessarily want to bring in a freelancer or agency to lead a function. That's just also doesn't work.